Dave, today we have a returning guest.
Oh.
A returning guest, yes. He has co-written 2 books about the White Sox. You're wearing your White Sox hat right now.
In honor of it. My Louis Aparicio White Sox.
Yeah, that's right. Both of his books have kind of been in the news lately. He wrote Chili Dog MVP with John Owens, and he also did Joe Jackson versus Chicago American League Ballclub with Jacob Pomrenke. Both of these books have significance to the Hall of Fame, which is what we are going to discuss today with Dr. David Fletcher.
The following is a Tony Lasano podcast, an Opie show on the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. This is the Minutia Man Celebrity Interview with Rick and Dave.
So, Doc, first of all, I know you're an actual practicing physician, so we appreciate you taking the time out to talk to us.
If you have to leave the room and do something,
There's
just
some
let us
sort
know.
of emergency operation that needs to take place. We understand.
I have done my schedules carved out so I would not be interrupted, so I could be able to,
fully
help your listeners get some idea what's going on. So thank you.
Okay, well, good. So next week, we're all gathering in Cooperstown, New York, because the subject of your first book, Chili Dog MVP, Dick Allen, is being inducted into the Hall of Fame. Is it fair to say that the Allen family believes that your book played a part in finally getting Dick the recognition he deserves?
Yes, very much so. I mean, it helped, especially with the narrative with Dick saving the Chicago White Sox franchise from leaving Chicago, saving an American League charter team. I think that really got emphasized with our book, and that message got out. I mean, that's sort of a unique type of credential. I mean, it's beyond, any statistics, just the impact that he had. So definitely that was helpful. Plus, we, from the vote in 21 to 24, with the book being out, it certainly gave a much different perspective about Dick's history, and it gave a lens of 50 years, especially, what he went through when he was in Philadelphia, also, when he was in Little Rock, Arkansas, and then finally in Chicago when he got redemption. So I feel really good about what the impact we had. A lot of people tell me that. I know what the family said. I mean, they knew I've been, pushing Dick since 2012 when I had him come back to Chicago for the tribute for the 40th anniversary of his MVP season.
Yeah, and you mentioned the vote in 21. He was just one vote away, right?
One vote away.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, that's what makes the storyline so sad, is that he had never got even close to being inducted by the writers, and then he wasn't even on the Veterans Committee ballot in 2011. He wasn't even considered, and there was a nice article in the New York Times about why not Dick Allen, and that was right when I started doing my emphasis to bring him back to Chicago. And so I know our tribute we did in 2012 got him the recognition to get back on the ballot, but sadly he lost by one vote in 2014 when he was still alive, ready to fly to San Diego, and it didn't happen. And then sadly again in 21 he lost by one vote again, and so 2 times a heartbreak. So
well, you're working on a movie about Dick with his son Richard Jr.
Yes,
tell us about that project, and you've mentioned some of the things that I'm sure are included in the movie. Tell us about the project, and when can what's the timeline for it?
Well, the film is called My Father, Dick Allen. It's about the quest to get Dick Allen in the Hall of Fame. It is told through the eyes of his son, Richard Jr., but it also includes his wife, Willa Allen, who's also a co-producer, her input. But basically, it just traces this pilgrimage from what I just said before, from not even being on the ballot in 2011, missing twice, coming close, and finally jubilation in Dallas in December of 2024. And so it sort of, has that arc of his story. It includes really important, what I call the Superman origin comic book aspect of Dick Allen is his time in Little Rock, Arkansas, when he was sent there by the Phillies and he was the first black player in Arkansas, and that experience and so forth. And so that's kind of what it's about. It kind of just tells this whole arc journey, and also includes where he grew up in Wampum, Pennsylvania. It's a small little town in western Pennsylvania. So we've filmed in 14 different locations around the United States. We got some great people we've filmed Dusty Baker. We've got Fergie Jenkins. We got other Hall of Famers. It's just a really great personal story.
And you'll obviously be filming at the Hall of Fame too, right?
Yes. Yeah. I mean that's obviously the culmination of the film is the weekend of the induction. Sadly he's not going to be there. We've already filmed at Cooperstown with Richard Jr. going up there, seeing where his dad's plaque's going to be and stuff like that. And so, we've got a little bit of that pre-induction, footage, but obviously the culmination is finally the recognition. Sadly he won't be there, but still,
he'll be there in spirit.
Yeah,
in spirit, of course, but physically he's not.
Yeah.
So it's not just any sports documentary. It's a real story about resilience and justice and redemption, and it really spotlights a player who really refused to compromise his identity in a world that demanded it. For more than 4 decades after his final game, he's finally taken his rightful place among the immortals of the game. He was the best offensive player in baseball for 11 years.
Yeah.
And fortunately, all the Sabre stats really kind of helped crystallize that and help make his case really clear.
And the fact that he didn't compromise is one of the reasons why
probably took him so long.
It took that long, right? Because he ruffled some feathers along the way.
Those writers can be a thin-skinned bunch, right?
Correct. I mean, he certainly did not endear himself with all the writers in Philadelphia. When he came to Chicago, it was different. That's when he said, "Hey, please call me Dick, not Richie." He went over the Chicago press. I mean, again, I've said this many times. Dick Allen in 1972 was Michael Jordan before there was Michael Jordan.
Yeah, that's true. So you helped repair that relationship with the baseball writers, but you also helped repair another relationship recently, and that's the one between Nancy Faust and the White Sox. And Nancy is a big part of your book. She's also in another Eckhart's Press book called Last Comiskey, which you had a hand in also. I was there a few weeks ago, and lo and behold, who do I see at the organ? Nancy Faust.
I was there Sunday. She was there Sunday,
and that was fantastic. Have they resolved whatever caused whatever rift there was?
They did. I mean, this was something that had been worked on, and she cited publicly the publication Last Comiskey and Chili Dog MVP as reasons why the White Sox reached out to her. So it was nice to get that acclamation and praise from her. But, she should have never left as it was. She's going to be in Cooperstown. She's on the guest list. I wish she was playing Jesus Christ Superstar as part of the speech, but that's another issue. But, she's definitely gotten recognition, and I know how close she was to Dick. Again, what she's most proud of in her career is she invented walk-up music because of Dick with Jesus Christ Superstar. That was the first time she had ever editorialized a player. And so that's what she's the proudest, even more than, Nah Hey Goodbye song, which she took from the Steam. So definitely, it's so great that she's back. I'm going to see her when she plays 2 final performances this year. Bill Veeck night on I think it's August 9th, and then August 10th she's playing again the next day. So I'm going to see those 2 final performances for 2025. But I hope that they invite her back on Sundays. It's just she's such a fabric of the team.
Oh, it was great. And as soon as they showed her on the Jumbotron on Sunday, the place erupted, And for our listeners who are not in Chicago, Nancy was preeminent organist in baseball for Was she 30? How many years did she? No, she was
41.
41.
Now 42. I remind her it's 42 now.
Yeah. Hey, have you ever been to the Hall of Fame induction ceremonies before? Well,
Yes.
I've been to Cooperstown. Rick has not. There's no dress code or anything.
There's no dress code. No dress code. So I've been there several times for it. So I think it's basically an outdoor rock fest, Woodstockish like type of event in upstate New York for all that matters.
Where Woodstock?
Yes. So it's basically at a school, and so they just have a big field from the stage, and so folks like you got tickets, you'll be up front. So you want to sit in the field, you'll have a seat, a ticket up there. It's very informal. There's 5 people getting inducted. Unfortunately, Dave Parker recently died, so he won't be there. Yeah. So you've got Dick and Dave Parker who are deceased, and you've got CeCe Batho, Ichiro, and you've got Billy Wagner. So and that's it. So they do a lot of the broadcaster and newspaper guys the day before. But it's a nice experience. You'll have a lot of fans there. I'll be really curious to see how many people from Chicago show up for Dick. I know a lot of fans are sad because he's going as a Philly as opposed to a White Sox. I know what he wanted to do is he wanted to go in as a White Sox, but I did not make that decision.
Yeah, that's true. Are there going to be other White Sox Hall of Famers there? I mean, there's at least a half dozen that are alive.
Yeah. The only one I know for sure that would be there will be Jim Cott. Okay. Sadly, Goose Gossage, who wrote the foreword to Chili Dog, will not be there because he's having surgery next week on his ankle.
Doggone it! I was hoping to meet.
Yeah.
Goose.
So, but there'll be several White Sox players from the 1972 season there. Like Tony Muser will be there. Tom Bradley will be there. Those guys will be.
Carlos Megan?
No, Carlos. No, I kept trying to get him to come, and he doesn't like to travel and fly. Ed Spezia will be there, who filled in for the late Bill Melton in 1970. He will be there. So I mean, it's nice he's got some of his teammates being there. We thought Wilbur Wood was going to come, but Wilbur's health is kind of failing, and he decided not to come. So we're going to try to do an interview with him later after the induction ceremony for the film, My Father, Dick Allen.
Well, it'd be cool to see Jim Cott. He was always one of my favorites too.
Well, we will have a full report when we return on the Hall of Fame. But there's other Hall of Fame related news that you can speak about, and that is the recent decision by MLB to end the ban on the Chicago Black Sox, who allegedly cheated in the 1919 World Series. The trial transcript of your Joe Jackson book made it pretty clear that he was actually guilty. How do you feel?
About Joe Jackson was guilty. He took the money.
Right.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the decision by MLB to kind of rescind the ban?
Well, I don't like it because it singles out Buck Weaver and makes Buck Weaver with the rest of the guys who took money and didn't play their best. So I did not like that aspect. I thought he needed to be separate and he needed to be exonerated. Basically this is, he's out of the phantom zone because he's dead. It didn't give him any kind of exculpation that he didn't do anything the same degree as the others. So I don't like it how it was for Buck Weaver. I understand some of the politics behind it. It was basically this was a bone for Pete Rose, and I actually had breakfast with Pete Rose a couple times, talked to him about his situation. He didn't really know much about the Black Sox, which was sad. So I mean, for me, it's for the Weaver family. It's still an issue, and he may be, quote, off the ineligible list, but they still want, an exoneration that, he didn't do anything wrong. And he had obviously some guilty knowledge, but he had no one to really tell. So that's kind of how I view things. And we had a really nice piece was done by WGN Sports about a month ago about this decision. And we actually went out to the cemetery where Buck's buried. He's the only one of the 8 to stay in Chicago. And it's basically the mission continues to get him cleared.
Do you know why they didn't separate him out? I just
convenience.
Yeah.
But also, Manford had written to me in 2015, basically saying that, that Buck was guilty and blah, blah, blah. And just, even though he had no confession or anything like that. So, we, obviously, think differently, and we're very blessed that we had a nice retweet by John Cusack, who played Buck Weaver in the movie 8 Men Out, basically, saying what an honor it was to play Buck's character. So it's a project I'll address. Right now, doing the Hall of Fame is a lot, because remember, I am a full-time doctor.
Yeah, I know. I don't know how you find the time to do any of this stuff, to be honest with you.
Well, I love what I do. I love, working with you guys, and you guys publish great stuff about Chicago. And,
thank you.
It's nice when you have readers that, appreciate what you do. I mean, that's what, it's a labor of love, and, we're working on a Hall of Fame edition of Chili Dog, and a lot to add to it. And I know I'll get some more stuff out of the Hall of Fame. I'm really looking forward to meeting some members of the John Allen family, who were the owners of the White Sox during the 1972 season, are coming. So, so they'll be there. So you guys will be there. Hopefully get a chance to meet them. And it's just, for me, I've spent almost 20 years, trying to help promote Dick, and I got to know him as a person, when I was originally just a fanboy, and it's been a lot more fun knowing him as a real person than obviously dealing with his death and tragedy afterwards. But it's a great Chicago story, and I'm taking a lot of satisfaction out of doing it. In the last few days before the vote in Dallas was like a political campaign, and people don't realize some of the stuff I had to do behind the scene, with the 16 voters and stuff like that. And but we got it done. He got 13 votes. I predicted before the vote he'd get 13 votes, and it was just a great feeling, and probably one of my highlights of my life, where to be able to enjoy that announcement and something you work hard on, and you had a lot of support, and you guys certainly publishing Chili Dog MVP helped, because again, I do believe, and people have cited this, the book did have a lot to help push him over the top.
And that moment is on video out there online if you want to check it out, listeners. A moment that they found out that Dick got in the Hall.
Well,
cool.
White Sox fans owe a debt of gratitude to you. I mean, thank you for certainly what you've done.
Well, I appreciate that. I mean, I will say, when we did the watch party, it was a White Sox party. People from Philadelphia were there, but I had nothing but his White Sox stuff up there, and it was very joyous experience. And I got to call Goose up, and that was fun. After the vote, because Goose owed his career to Dick, and wrote the foreword for Chili Dog, and it's hard to describe. And you put a lot of work on it, and you do something that you believed in. It should have happened a long time ago, and I know people are going to really like our film, because it really tells a great story, and it's an Americana story about overcoming stuff, and what he had to experience down in Little Rock, and for me to go to Little Rock for the filming was just spectacular. He went in to Arkansas Travelers with Fergie Jenkins, and we had Fergie Jenkins there at Little Rock with us, and it just was really, really special to hear this, and just I'm happy for the family. He was very special. I wish he had played with the White Sox longer. Dick had a lot of injuries people don't realize. I don't know how he held that big bat. One of my thrills of my medical career was finally getting to examine Dick, and with his right hand, he had put his hand through a headlight fixing a car at his house, and severed his ulnar nerve and tendons in his right hand. And I don't know how he continued to play, but he did some rehab in the off season as a bricklayer. Anyway,
just like us, just like Rick and Dave.
Yeah,
tough guys.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I see things, and it's going to be exciting for Chicago. I'm glad we did the bobblehead day recently for him, which was great. It was a takeoff in the infamous June 1972 Sports Illustrated cover.
The juggling. Right?
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
The picture of his son, he looks exactly like his dad.
He does. He does. They are doppelgangers. It is. So it really is. So, and he's, he was with his dad, growing up, was with him in Chicago. He was at almost every game at the home game and would be in the locker room afterwards. And, he really got to experience it. And so it's obviously going to be emotional for him. We've done all this filming around the country so far, including when we brought him up to Cooperstown for a pre-induction ceremony shoot. And, I know how special it's going to be, and his dad never campaigned. His dad was a humble guy that let his numbers speak for themselves. I can remember when I first met Dick and was with him for 6-7 straight days in a row. I tried to explain to him about OPS plus. He had never heard of it.
I love it.
And so he said, "I know if I did on the field." And he felt that's all he had to do. He was not someone who was campaigning for himself. And I know that he would enjoy this, especially for his family. He also admitted he had a lot of help along the way. But if I will contend, if Bill Milton hadn't fallen off the ladder in the winter of 1971 after he was a home run crown, the White Sox would have won the World Series in 1972. And it's all this, what could have, but I can tell you, because I'm a little bit older than you guys, is how exciting it was in 72, in August of 72, when the White Sox, caught the A's, surpassed them, were in the first place at the end of the month, first part of September, and they started printing up playoff tickets, and
that's a little karma.
But you're right about him saving the team. I mean, that they were very close to leaving, and look here, it's 50 years later, and the White Sox are still in Chicago. That is it. That right there is a legacy of Dick Allen.
It is. I mean, that was probably the thing I enjoyed the most for me after the Hall of Fame vote favorable for Dick, was the editorial in the Tribune about we need another Dick Allen for the White Sox. After the disastrous year the White Sox had in 24, and it was also a nice piece in Cranes about Dick getting in the Hall of Fame that Dan McGrath, former editor of the sports editor for the Tribune, had written. Just seeing those pieces, how much culture they were. I know for certain, at least males over 55, 60 years old in Chicago, how significant he is. A lot of youngsters don't know who he is, but for anybody at a certain age, they know how special he was and what impact he made.
He was my first idol.
Yeah.
I was born in 63, so 72 I was 9, and my dad, who passed away when I was 13, favorite player, Dick Allen. I mean, totally, that father-son baseball legacy that we had, the relationship was based on Dick Allen. And when Dick Allen broke his leg, was that in what year did he break his leg?
73.
Yeah, the next year.
So what I'm hoping for, guys, is the Pope has a induction day message for his favorite baseball player. Ooh. I'm predicting it first. I guarantee you the Pope's favorite player was Dick Allen.
Wow.
Right. Based on his age and his love of the White Sox, it's got to be, right?
Yeah.
It has to be. So I'm just that will be my divine thing if we get some kind of message from the Pope.
Well, you know what? I'll convert. I have got no problem. I mean, that's I think in many ways.
I love it.
I just. Yeah, so thanks, guys, for having me on.
I appreciate
it. Look forward to seeing you Cooperstown.
Yes, and we'll be reforming our group out there, and we'll have a great time in Cooperstown for sure.
We will. So thank you so much, and again for all the support.
Oh,
you got it.
You are the best. Thanks, buddy. We'll see you in
see you next week.
8 weeks or 8 days. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
There he goes, Dr. David Fletcher.
We'll have to ask him the next time he comes on.
Mm-hmm.
Remind me to ask him about Pete Townsend in his hand.
Oh.
Remember?
Yeah, that's right. He also treated him. You know who else he treated? Me.
That's right, with your arm, yeah. So it's Dick Allen, Pete Townsend, Rick Kempfer.
I wonder what the order would be in terms of excitement level.
Alphabetical or
we'll have to find out. Well, all right. So thanks very much to Doc Fletcher, and Chili Dog MVP is the name of his book, which you can find at eckhartspress.com. And he's going to be everywhere because Doc knows how to get press. He's very good at that.
Well, like I said, he's going to do we're going to do the Hall of Fame edition of Chili Dog. Which is still selling great.
I got to tell you, this is like one of the biggest thrills of my life is being able to go to do this. I can't believe that we're invited.
Yeah, you've never met my dad, but you will be meeting my dad over the weekend because he's going to be there right next to us.
Oh, don't make me cry, Dave.
Smoking a cig. Just like Dick Allen did on that cover of Sports Illustrated.
Well, we have people to thank.
Hey, Tony Lasano, thank you, buddy.
Yes, thanks for all you do. Thanks also to
Ed Silla
with the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Great Talk Radio isn't dead. It just moved to a better place. It's radiomisfits.com. And we'll be back again next week with a brand new episode of
Minutia Men Celebrity Interview.
The proceeding was a presentation of the Radio Misfits Podcast Network. Find our other great shows on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at radiomisfits.com. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
This has been a presentation of Opie Productions.
Tony, can you shut up?